Alright, let's talk about the backhand drive. I've had players tell me they think the motion, from backswing to contact, is a push block. In proper technique, there is no such shot as a push block. A backhand drive is simply a backhand drive. It's not a straight push forward. This incorrect idea might have come from a variation of penhold blocking. As a result, many beginners just push the ball straight forward. This makes it impossible to learn a backhand flick or a proper loop later on. Pushing creates linear muscle memory. Advanced strokes like flicks and loops are rotational. Starting with a push makes it extremely difficult to develop the correct rotational feeling later. The stroke just becomes a simple lift from back to front. So remember, at the foundational stage, you must execute the full backhand drive motion. Do not just push straight forward. Forget terms like push block. The backhand drive, like the forehand, is a standard stroke, not a push. There is no push block. While pushing gets the ball over, can you flick or loop with that same motion? No. It's completely different from advanced techniques, and you'll waste a lot of time on learning this bad habit. So, it's crucial to learn the standard backhand drive correctly from the start. Now, let's break down the standard backhand drive. During the backswing, your elbow must be propped up and away from your body. Keeping the elbow away from your ribs creates the necessary space for your forearm to rotate freely. If your elbow is tucked in, the swing becomes a restricted, awkward lift. This isn't the same as excessively flaring the elbow, which you see in pros like Fan Zhendong. They flare the elbow to create more space for a larger backswing, wrist snap, and wider shot angles. Furthermore, their elbow stability allows them to concentrate power effectively. If an amateur tries to flare their elbow like that, the motion will feel very awkward. Professionals have immense core and shoulder stability to control a flared elbow. Amateurs often lose power and control because their body isn't strong enough to support that extreme posture. So, relax your upper arm and elbow, positioning them just in front of your abdomen. Don't overdo it, and don't try to copy the world champion's form. Your technique evolves with your skill. As you improve and start to flick, your elbow will naturally rise more, which is correct for that stage. But using that flared elbow posture at the beginner stage is simply incorrect. Different stages of learning require different technical focuses. At the basic level, your elbow should be supported and pointing towards the floor on your right side. However, don't keep it too close to your body. Keep the elbow slightly propped up with your hand in front of your abdomen. In this position, whether for a drive or a flick, your racket face should be kept neutral. Watch this closely. What's a common mistake here? Cocking the wrist up or letting it drop. An unstable wrist leads to inconsistent racket angles at contact. For the basic drive, the wrist should be firm, acting as a solid extension of the forearm. Throughout the stroke, maintain a stable racket angle. This applies to both shakehand and penhold. At contact, many people ask, do I just push forward? The answer is no. On contact, your elbow acts as a pivot and rotates, but your wrist remains stable. The power comes from the rotation of your forearm. Just rotate. For a cross-court shot, the follow-through finishes in front of your right side. The height of your hand at the finish should be roughly at chest level. From your abdomen, rotate the forearm with a firm wrist, and stop the motion out to your front right. Remember, the wrist is firm, the rotation comes from the elbow and forearm. It's the same for shake hand. Let's take a look. The rotation does not come from the wrist. A common error is to loosen the wrist when trying to generate power sideways. The backhand drive is not a wrist wrestling motion. Like the forehand, it's primarily an impact-based stroke. The shot is executed by the forearm, finishing towards your front right. Finishing the stroke in this position, for a cross-court shot, ensures you are directing the ball correctly and allows for a faster recovery for the next shot. To understand the arc of the swing, let's use the forehand as an analogy. On the forehand side, can you just push the ball straight forward? Of course not. You have to create an outside arc, bringing the arm from an open to a closed position. The backhand is the same. If you go straight forward, that's just a push. I often use the analogy of a folding fan. Your racket should open in a fan-like arc. This fan motion is crucial. It ensures the racket is moving sideways as well as forwards at contact, which is how you brush the ball to create topspin. A straight push has no brush. Watch my racket face, it opens and then rotates through. If I place my other hand here, you can see the racket travels in an arc. This arc is not a straight push forward. With my hand here as a guide, it's clear the motion is not a push. During the swing, the racket moves forward and sideways, creating a distinct radius and arc. However, for a basic drive, this arc is very compact. When you execute a backhand flick or rip, the rotation of the racket head becomes much more pronounced. You are whipping the racket, not pushing it forward. If you just push forward, you can't generate any topspin through friction. Topspin is the key to consistency and aggression in modern table tennis. Without friction, brushing, you are only hitting the ball flat, making it less predictable and easier for your opponent to attack. For a full backhand loop, this radius will be even larger. So why do I insist you learn this compact arc first? Because later, when I tell you to relax the wrist and brush more, you'll naturally be able to execute a flick. When I teach you to loop against backspin, this foundational movement will transition perfectly. If you start by pushing, it will be much harder to correct your technique for the flick later on. She's explaining his teaching philosophy. The basic drive is the chassis for all other backhand strokes. If the chassis is built correctly, adding advanced features, like a wrist snap for a flick, is easy. And when you try to loop, you'll find it impossible to generate any real power through friction. To summarize, for the backhand drive, start in front of your abdomen. The motion is a fan-like arc to the side, not a push. Pay attention to your racket head. Backswing, racket head, contact. When done smoothly, the motion is very compact. But you must have that arc in your swing to create a stable trajectory for the ball. The topspin generated by the arc makes the ball dip downwards after clearing the net. This gives you a much higher margin for error, allowing you to hit harder while still keeping the ball on the table. If you just push, you will hit the ball into the net against pips out rubbers or a penholder's quick block. Therefore, it is essential to create this proper arc with your swing. My backhand is a strength of mine, mainly because I execute this arc fully. It's the same principle as my forehand. Am I looping the ball, or am I just pushing it forward? You can't push. You must create that arc with your racket head. This is true for both penhold and shakehand players.